to that match that we're turning now. I'm delighted to say we've got James Pearce of The Athletic with us this morning. James, good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah,
Jurgen Klopp, very careful, very reticent to say, oh, look, this is done and dusted, because obviously he can't do that. We can do that, though, because they keep racking up these performances, they keep racking up the wins, and they are an unstoppable juggernaut.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah, I think it's interesting listening to Jurgen Klopp, and the players are all singing from the same hymn sheet as well. I think they're desperate to ensure there's not any kind of hint of complacency sneaking in, and of course deep down they know that Liverpool are in an unbelievably strong position. But they also know that until the job is absolutely done, there's nothing to be gained from talking publicly about something that they haven't achieved yet.
There must have been a situation on Saturday night, James, when Liverpool fans must have been thinking this is rather easy, especially at half-time. We'll get into the second half in just a moment, but the situation with which Liverpool found themselves in away from home against a quality opposition at half-time, they must have been scratching their head, thinking how on earth have they found themselves in such a fairly easy position?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a surreal game, certainly the first half, when you think that that was two teams who faced off in the Champions League final, the biggest game in club football 6-7 months earlier, and there you had Liverpool going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the first time and having, I remember checking the possession stats after about half an hour, and they had 80% of the ball, and it was attack against defence effectively, and it almost seemed too easy, and it was only really when Tottenham changed their approach and started to show a little bit more ambition in the second half that it was anything kind of resembling a contest.
That's interesting, isn't it, that Jose Mourinho would wait until the second half to try and turn that around? Like, is your opinion on it that he just saw something in the first half and made a shift to it, or do you think he was spooked a little bit by Jurgen Klopp from the off?
I think it's a mark of the respect I think that so many rival teams and managers have got for this Liverpool team, that I think it was no great surprise to see Mourinho set his team up like that. We've seen it from him time and time again, and in the past he has had joy against Liverpool by with that kind of low block and then getting everyone almost packed inside their own half to limit space for Liverpool's attacking players and then try and get something on the counter attack. But I think the difference with this Liverpool team is that they can hurt you in so many different ways. I think Jurgen Klopp talked about unpredictability last week, and I think Liverpool have got that. They've got that in abundance with the two fullbacks. They've got that with the midfielders, and they've got it with the front three. That they can. It's very difficult to come up with a plan to stop this Liverpool team, and that's why they've done something that no team has ever done in any of the 5 major European leagues, and that's take 61 points out of the first 63 on offer.
I did see some of the amazing stats as well about how Liverpool's 61 points that they've got so far this season is more than they would have got was it the last time that they reached the Champions League final? That time that so the 61 points.
2004-05, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here we are, the 13th of January today. It's a phenomenal achievement, and they've been in phenomenal form, not just for this season, but also for last season, which gets a little bit overshadowed because of obviously how well Manchester City played to win the title. But they've been on such a run at this point that they're reaching a stage of perfection in football terms that, like, they're a very different team from the Barcelona team of Pep Guardiola, but they're starting to reach that level of consistent victories that side had. Are there other elements of this that Klopp can use to continue to drive the team forward? That he says the records aren't important, but at some point that must be a motivating factor, as the league will surely be wrapped up in the next 4 or 5 weeks potentially. Then it's going to be something else that needs to drive the team to make sure that the standards remain at the level they're at the minute.
Yeah, well, I think the massively positive thing for all Liverpool fans is that you look at the club and it's in such a healthy state on and off the pitch. Everything does look in place for this to be a real golden era. I don't think anyone kind of looks at this season as some kind of one-off. I mean, it's not. The fact that they got 97 points last season. They almost seem to be rewriting the record books on a weekly basis at the moment. And you look at the age of these players, and probably with the exception of James Milner, the vast majority of the squad have still got their best years ahead of them. Probably the most important signing Liverpool have made in the last few years was before Christmas, Klopp committing himself to the project until 2024 as well. So he's on board. The whole structure running through the club, we saw that with the way in which the young players performed when they stepped in for that FA Cup tie against Everton. This is unprecedented in the history of a club that has enjoyed remarkable success going back into previous decades, and it kind of really whets your appetite, I think, for what they could go on to achieve in the coming years.
Obviously, a few players might leave. Maybe Salah decides that he wants to go and spend some time in Madrid. Maybe Mane does. Who knows exactly what the future holds? But they certainly their ability to buy players and to regenerate the squad has been excellent over the last number of years. You've got a really interesting piece in The Athletic where you just watched Virgil van Dijk for the entire day to see exactly how he interacted with everybody else around him. And I wonder, is Van Dijk different now from the Van Dijk that we saw at Southampton and Celtic? Obviously, he's older and more experienced and more confident because of the success that he's had. But how much of it is down to the environment that he came into, and how much of it is the environment inspiring him to get better?
Yeah, I think the environment's got an awful lot to do with it. I think you look at that Liverpool squad, and it's absolutely full of personal stories of amazing development. And that's testament to Klopp and his coaching staff and their ability to develop talent, because Virgil van Dijk, he was a relatively late developer in football terms, in terms of proving that he could deliver at the absolute highest level. And it was interesting hearing him speak recently about how he felt that he just facing the likes of Salah and Mane and Firmino on a daily basis at the Melwood training ground it helped him kind of elevate his game, because again, it was a bit of a strange experience. I was asked to just watch him during the game at Tottenham on the weekend for my article, and it was fascinating, to be honest. I had no idea just quite how kind of verbal and how much of a leader he really is, in terms of he's absolutely non-stop in terms of talking to those around him and organising. And yeah, I thought he was absolutely immense yet again at the weekend.
Yeah, that's the intangibles that we don't know about. And then there's obviously all the rest of the stuff that we do see, his pace and his power and his heading ability and all that kind of stuff as well. But it's the ability to read the game that kind of came through very clearly as well, where what looks like is going to be a difficult situation. No one ever sees that it's a difficult situation, because Virgil van Dijk has, shifted his body position, has made an early run, has got there before the ball arrives, and has made it all look very easy.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that was one of the things that struck me, was that he very rarely has to break into a sprint. Virgil van Dijk, I think he looks upon it as almost like a personal affront when he has to get a sweat on, because his positional play and his reading of the game is so good that 9 times out of 10 he's in the right place at the right time. And it was amazing how many times a cross came into the box, and a ball was drilled across the face of the area, and he was in exactly the spot there to deal with it. And even when Liverpool were losing their heads a little bit second half, it was all getting a bit frantic. He was the one, ice cool, demanding a greater show of composure from those around him. And yeah, I think there's been recruitment that's been at the heart of this Liverpool transformation under Klopp, and they've bought incredibly well. But there hasn't been a more important deal than the £75 million they paid for Virgil van Dijk.
It's interesting. It's very curious to think about what the future now holds, not just for Liverpool, but the context of the Premier League going into the next season and the season after that, James, because we all know it's a copycat league. We all know that Liverpool and Manchester City are clearly playing the best football, and it's hard to kind of detract from that duopoly for a time. And you look at Manchester City yesterday, you look at Sergio Aguero becoming the top foreign goal scorer, and then I guess Liverpool just come up with another reminder of the fox in the box that they have in Roberto Firmino on Saturday night. And there's been so much said about him as a fantastic number 9 for Liverpool, is the way he holds up the ball, and then you see what he can do with both of his feet and that finish, and it's just sublime. And this is the level of quality we're talking about here, that when the dust has settled, when we're talking about this team in a while, we are going to be talking about these players in the air that people were talking about Sergio Aguero yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, Firmino for Liverpool is, He's had a relatively lean start to the season, but certainly in the past 5 or 6 weeks, he's scored some really, really important goals for the club, not least to help them win the Club World Cup over in Qatar before Christmas. And Liverpool fans are absolutely blessed to have that front three, and they have an uncanny knack as well of all delivering at different times and stepping up and taking responsibility when it's really needed. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens now going forward in terms of we don't know whether Pep Guardiola is going to stay around at Man City long term. Is he going to be up for the fight to try and get back this title that it looks like he's going to lose to Liverpool? But I think what we do know is that it will be a two-way fight next season, because I don't think there's Leicester have had a fantastic season under Brendan Rodgers, but a couple of dodgy results recently, and I think the reality is that Liverpool and City are in a class of their own, and this time around Liverpool have just been far too strong for them in a season when City have had some problems. But I think you can guarantee that City will be back and desperate to try and wrestle it off them again next season.
James, last question for you. We've been talking about this a good bit over the last week or so. Just at the start of the year, is it possible they can go the Premier League season unbeaten and become the new Invincibles? Is it less or more likely at this point now, do you think?
I think when you see them tick another one and tick another box, I genuinely thought that they could have, before going down to London on the weekend, I thought that was one of those ones that you kind of circle as a really tricky game, knowing what Mourinho's like and his ability to spoil a game and upset the apple cart. So yeah, I think you do. We were talking about it with a few colleagues on Saturday night, and you do start to think at this stage, well, who exactly is going to beat them? Of course, they've got to go to the Etihad. That's probably the one that you look at. But this Liverpool team they've won games so impressively in so many different ways this season. They've sparkled at times, demolishing Leicester like they did on Boxing Day. They've dug deep and ground out wins when not at their best, like they did against Tottenham. So it's going to take a real Herculean effort from anyone, I think, to stop them. They've got obviously Manchester United coming to town this weekend, and then Wolves away. That will be a tricky one on a Thursday night at Molineux. But when you see this Liverpool team and the depth of talent, and also the reinforcements on the way with Fabinho coming back from his injury, you do start to think it is a realistic target for them to emulate that great Arsenal team and to be invincible this season. Yeah,
it's a real target for them indeed, and one that they actually absolutely have within their grasp at the moment. James, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million, man.